Well, would you look at that? Welcome back, everybody. We've just witnessed NLC second seed Bifrost securing first seed out of the group. Of course, now we are joined by none other than the victorious mid laner, Fury. How are you doing, my friend?
Hope he's there. There you go.
I'm doing great.
Hello.
Hello.
We can't hear
doing
you.
really
I
great.
can hear him.
Okay, I can't hear him, which is really inconvenient.
Okay.
Fantastic stuff.
Well,
Congratulations
at least
on this
someone
victory.
Can hear me.
I can hear you. It's fine. That's important. Congratulations on going 3-0 on the day. It was, shall we say, some mixed games. Obviously, we didn't get an interview with any of the Bifrost members after the game versus BDSA, but what on earth happened in that early game?
Well, I think I forgot about the game already now. I think early game was it was a bit of a disaster early game. Like, I don't know exactly what happened. I mean, I saw Seaboy like dying 3 times in a row, but we kind of knew we had like still a good comp scaling wise, and I mean, we are kind of know right to steal games away, the Bifrost special. So I mean, we played pretty well mid game, and we had some good steals as well from Seaboy that kind of won us the game. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. In that case, got to have this little bit of think about now then, about now that you've secured the first seed out of this group. Who are you looking at as potential quarterfinals opponents? Anyone you really want to face? I mean, X7's on the table, of course. A bit of revenge for the regular season on the table there. Any other teams you're looking at saying, yeah, I really want to go up against them?
I mean, I think we just keep the X7 match for finals, right? So I think we ignore that one. To be honest, I don't know every seed of like the second seed now, but I really want to face LDLC. I think they're a really good team, and yeah, I just want to see how we will play against them. So I would choose LDLC if we can meet them.
All right, well, one final question then for you today. How far are you expecting to go? Obviously, we've seen some very interesting games from Bifrost, incredible late game team fights, some interesting early games. How far do you think you can go? What is the ceiling for this team?
Well, I think we can go pretty far. Like, we have been playing since the play-ins already, so we have like a lot of games in AM Masters, and I think it's doing us really well. So I think we can go far. I think it's gonna be hard for sure that we are gonna meet, but I mean, we will see. Like, people are not really expecting us to go far, but I think we are kind of dark horse in the tournament right now. So,
okay. Well, we wish best of luck rather, to the Darkest Stallion from the NLC, doing your absolute best to show all the disbelievers wrong. Thank you so much, Fury. Best of luck with the rest of the tournament. Best of luck in quarterfinals. But we will have to bid you adieu for now.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Okay, well, I would have loved to chime in there, but I've had big headphone issues, so I'm going to assume that everything was lovely.
It was. We were insulting you mostly.
That does happen sometimes, but again, just managing to hear from Bifrost's players. I mean, we've had a chance to obviously chat with them a lot over this split, and it's they always tend to bring like real heartfelt nature to their interviews.
Well, time to look into some highlights from that last game, of course. This one was a significantly stronger early game where Fury on this RE did unspeakable things.
Absolutely, and a lot of it started through the bot lane, but then it got to the point where the vision just was untenable for Eska. They tried to play around their paranoia, try to play around their long-range ultimates, and it just didn't work out for them. And the early game was too strong from Bifrost, which is a good change of pace from them. And of course, Eska now leading the tournament 1-5, and Bifrost securing that first seed in this group. That was not something I expected coming into the tournament.
Incredible stuff, really. And yes, later on, Team Eska, some solid attempts at finding a wombo combo turnaround, but the problem is you kill a couple, but you kill everybody. And then you've got some turnaround that's just so difficult to deal with, and this kind of thing happens.
It does. The thing about assassin versus assassin matchups is often when you start falling behind, it reduces your actual play opportunities, where you know you have to get optimal damage. That means you can't play around as trickily as you might want to. So plays like that end up happening. Of course, that doesn't help you in the team fights either. Rhuckz kind of struggling to hit the targets that they needed to. And there's only one paranoia to lock down the big targets on top of something like the Equalizer. And eventually, the difference of that was felt very, very heavily. As soon as those ultimates are gone, Bifrost carries so mobile, so high in damage at this point when they got so far ahead. It became very, very difficult for Xico to fight back.
Absolutely did. And when you manage to kill off the jungle and support and the top lane, it goes 1-for-1. Problem is, you've got the Ahri and the Lucian still alive, and a clutch Sonya's pulls off plays like that, and the triple kill going the way of the Lucian. Odie, one of the absolute superstars here at the Amazon EU Masters.
On a very different champion too. Very, very different champion.
Exactly.
Playing the Storm.
And this is another one of those turnaround plays where, like, actually, a little bit of an overstep, honestly, from Bifrost.
And this is one of those times you think, all right, okay, well, what's happening here? I mean, they were still split pushing the top side, right? This was still not their full cohort here to those problems. But there were a couple of times where we're thinking, okay, not the cleanest fights, but then you finally managed to force Xico's hand to not pick off people in the spaces that they want to. And you don't really have the ability to play the split fights in the manner in which Bifrost do, especially with the amount of golden pocket.
No, not at all, and they do so much work here, and the duality of Bifrost is sometimes on display in the game today. And my man to make that punch just the once, and you can see it there in those damage numbers. Fury and Odie absolutely crushed this game.
And this was why it was so important for that bot lane to start going off really, really early. As soon as we saw the first dive, I was like, okay, it's a 1-for-1. Maybe not the best. And then suddenly it's 3 kills. And then suddenly it's the tower going down. And then suddenly the Lucian is threatening everyone in the lanes that they're in. And it became so difficult for Xico to play around. It's a very different style of composition from Bifrost, which will be something that will have to be noted going into those best of 5s, that they actually do have a couple of extra compositions they can go towards. They've normally gone towards, you know, mid to late game, front to back team fights, long range crit AD carries, but showing something a little bit different and winning in this fashion, it should bolster Bifrost's chances going to the best of 5.
Another,
so hopes.
Exactly, another card in the hand coming into playoffs, and it's another team to be taken lightly should you get in. But of course, it's not the last game we've got to deal with, because we've got another incredible playoff deciding game to come up. BDSA fight off against FnaticTQ for the final remaining spot coming out of this group.
You know, both these teams coming in with a lot of expectations. You know, I think that if you're looking at a team like Xico or Bifrost in this group, they were thinking, okay, we'll do our best, but these are tough opponents. We'll see what we can end up making work. But suddenly you're looking at the 2 potential pre-tournament favorites in the first LVP seed and the second LFL. And, BDSA now having to fight for their tournament lives against FnaticTQ.
And on the other side, FnaticTQ were one of the pre-tournament favorites. Again, this was a team that broke every single damn record in the Superliga, did the most winning, the biggest winning streak, the best game score, did so much incredible stuff. This is the team that left the NLC after getting to the finals there, coming in with the likes of Oscarinin, who has been a monster in their region. And honestly, it's been a tough time for them.
It's okay. You know, it's okay if they win today. We'll let them have our 3rd seed. I think they'll be okay with that one. But they left. They came in with so many expectations, and when you've got so much of the roster which did actually make finals with their jungle and their bot lane, which got to those finals on Fnatic Rising as they were back when they were in the NLC, replacing their solo laners because Dale went off to the NLC and. Of course, bringing in Oscarinin in the top side too. This team has been incredibly dominant within their region. The gap between first and second was assumed to be such a large gulf, but FnaticTQ not really landing on their feet as heavily as they was, steadily rather, as they would have wanted to do so far.
As we come into picks and bans, I would like to take a moment here to set the stakes. If BDSA win, there will be a tiebreaker for that remaining spot, as FnaticTQ currently have the 1-0 head-to-head. If FnaticTQ win, there will be no tiebreaker, and FnaticTQ will become the 2nd seed out of this group. Lots to play for here. Potentially another game to come afterwards should BDSA win. Some bans already coming out thick, and FnaticTQ trying to get away Crownshot from some of his comfort carries.
Yes, and we've seen a lot of red side AD carry bans today. We've seen that the battle between Crownshot and Odie earlier was a truly monumental one, but trying to get those champions over can be quite dangerous. One thing which is quite interesting here now is that BDSA banned Zeri on blue side already today. Now, I don't know if they want to play around it today. They're going to do it again. That's actually a pretty big warning sign for this. If you're banning away AD carries and you're not willing to first pick the Zeri or ban, and you have to ban on the blue side, that's a rough drafting deficit you have to play around.
Leaves open the Xayah to be rapidly locked in.
And what this means now is that if you're going to pick up the Misfortune into the Xayah, you have to do that with the threat of the Jarvan on the other side, getting to you in the back line and locking you down. That's actually very dangerous from Misfortune to play around, which is your choice counter into the Xayah. So FnaticTQ are sat there with a good 1-2 to say, you don't have the best AD carry options left on the table.
Debating a few picks here, though some of them are a little bit spicy than others. If we do see a Samir, I'll be a very happy boy, but we're not quite there yet. Said it will be Xico's Viktor, an old staple of pretty much every mid laner everywhere.
Yes, came in Season 5 and then just has refused to leave. Gosh, I remember when that champion first came out. It was much more bursty back then. I'm sure Double F remembers that sad occasion. As do many other AD carries, which it's into the folklore.
It's not Crown, it's Crownshot. It's not the same player.
Gosh, he was a great player, that champion, right? But I think that BDS Academy, they kind of sit there, they look at the Xayah Jarvan, they raise an eyebrow, they kind of grimace a little bit, and they go, you still kind of have to go for the MF. It's still the answer into the Xayah to stop Xayah having this kind of unparalleled range advantage. At least on the other side, there was the J spam, which means you can't double up on the 2 range advantage. You have a Viktor, it means that you have some ability to play standoffish and potentially win out the stand, the posturing phase of objectives when you're both trading points.
If you can get to 2 items and then hit team fights with a Viktor and Misfortune hitting R on multiple people, you're pretty happy as BDSA.
It does tend to be pretty explosive.
Yeah, it's pretty explosive. On the other side, FnaticTQ have got all the early playmaking tools they need right now. You hit level 6 on these champions and you can go. I don't care what items you have.
But then you've locked in this Misfortune, you're going to lose the Nautilus. I would imagine you're going to lose something like the Nami or the Renata as well, which, not the just saw the last game, the Leona or the Renata, or something else that can, again, give extended lockdown in the laning, in the team fights, to allow large value out of your Viktor and your Misfortune. You have to do that versus the Xayah Rakan, which is stronger in lane than something which would be, again, something like a Xayah Nautilus or a Xayah.
I'll forgive your support name club, as I did the same last game in fairness, so I have to be magnanimous and give
Turns
that one
out,
over.
oh, they banned the Tom Kench, can't you see?
I was trying to be kind, and you just threw me under the bus again.
None of that. None of that. We don't allow. No quarter shall be shown. Potentially, no quarterfinals will be shown for one of these teams. Well, let's bring it back to the stakes and odd segues, because BDSA, they have to sit here now, and they have FnaticTQ now have two playoffs points. Been hovering this, did it earlier today.
That's for trouble.
Does it? It's for trouble. Of course, we talked about a little bit before about Bifrost hovering over the Pantheon for our friend Artron, host of the MLC, but the Katarina is one specially for Trouble Inc. And it's not going to be that. It's going to be the Sylas. Sylas a little more easy to play in the current meta and gives a really good ability to just dive forward. Lots of big ults from Baca to steal.
Absolutely. There are already make that 5 fantastic ultimates. You're very happy to steal. Bullet Time, Solar Flare, Chaos Storm, Stormbringer, now the course of collateral damage. They're all like fantastic top tier ultimates. That does suggest that we got a bit of we'll call it a weak side top, but a weak side top we shove with the Graves. You don't tend to play to it all the time.
We'll see what happens with the Gangplank.
But the Gangplank allows FnaticTQ to play to bot very heavily now.
Well, bit of a battle of bilge water between these two teams. Got an MF, got ourselves a GP, a Graves.
Sadly, that's a law matchup, alright.
Sadly, we don't have like the Ruin King thing where you've got like Alawi, Brawl, Ari, Pike, all of the rest of it. Great game, by the way. Seriously, play it if you're interested in League War. But with that Graves now facing off against the GP will just happily collect waves at tower. Things get different if you start getting dove for the Volibear, and Volibear very much can do that early into the game. But it feels like there are multiple threats you want to shut down as BDS on the side of FnaticTQ now. With the Sylas being able to threaten so many of your champions on side lanes and in team fights, but again, you're talking about so many of those stolen ultimates, and then having hugely scaling backline carries, you're not particularly happy going even. Like, it's a playable even game. If you go even into mid late, Stalker Viktor's still got Misfortune. You don't necessarily want to do that with the Cannon Barrage and all of the other answers into your backline, which you don't have into theirs.
I've got to call it out as well. BDSA have been often the Crownshot show. It's the Crowny show. And this is not the easiest game to play for the Misfortune.
No.
And actually, FnaticTQ have a lot of tools here with Bean and Rhuckz to try and get in on Crownshot and Erdote and make their lives very difficult. They can have the Jarvan come down, they've got the Cannon Barrage, Baca can roam, and could make that bot side very challenging to actually play around, even if BDSA are notorious for their bot side focus.
I think I do really want to go back to something you were saying just before in terms of like it's normally the Crownshot show and the rest of it, but because you look at the MF and the Xayah and they both want to be playing the backline teamfight AD carries, but as you were saying, one of them has an easier time than the other. You've got a Gangplank ult on top of the less mobile carries of BDS Academy compared to just really the Leona with the Graves ult flying over the top onto Xayah. And Xayah has the ult to deal with a lot of that too. There isn't a lot of ability to... I mean, unless you're going to be threatening the Xayah before the fights start, just don't really want to take even fights with all ultimates and summoners available. That's my feeling towards it. So we'll have to watch now and check out what happens with BDS in terms of their warding, in terms of their approach to objectives, and how they start to force away important summoners and abilities away from FnaticTQ so before the fight starts.
Trying to see, of course, how it all plays out. Still some work to go with, but very early on to this game, nothing super crazy happening on it. Is, however, the LFL special, that ward from blue side into the red buff of FnaticTQ. So we've seen that pretty much every time BDSA have played. They do love to try and set that up as best they can.
So, I have to look across these early lanes now. One thing is that Sylas doesn't really control lanes early. Graves is the master of all pushing lanes. And bot lane, it is a Xayah Rakan, which changes the matchup a little bit on the spot side. But this means that there is actually some options across the board for both junglers to come in early. And Volibear and Jarvan both very proficient at playing around early ganks. See if they can find any ways to tilt some of these, as we said, very important matchups. If BDS start getting ahead in this game, those team fights, which we said, not too great if they go even. You don't actually have to contend with that, because it won't be an even fight.
Nope, certainly not. Gonna have to try and do their best to hold it thus far. Junglers pathing from bot side to top. Maybe we'll look to see whether there's an angle in to get something there. Of course, the Graves does have the shove, but that's a big engage. Forces the heal out of Crownshot early on. It's a trade for the ignite, but still damage. Oscarinin definitely winning out there. Look for the trial by fire pass. He gets a flash out of Agresivoo as well. Final parlay, not quite enough, even with the corrupting burn.
He's better. Agresivoo on the Graves. I mean, you know you're going to push in, but one of the things about Gangplank into these champions is that you have so much ability to just trade. And now mid lane, we're talking these early options.
The gravity field gets decent trade, but Sheo is coming over as well. This will now be a 2v2. They'll walk into the Volibear, flashing in, flash for flash, but Baca is the one that loses out, and Xico's Viktor secures a kill.
Does, and we said both junglers have early options. They both love those. Nice, and Xico plays it out well enough to stop the 2v2 going so badly, and now it's been contested. These Raptors now is MAXI gonna have to sit and watch. Sheo doesn't have flash.
Exactly. He's gonna get knocked up. Still decently available to trade back. Does get a stun, but it's gonna be a gravity field. Still not quite of a MAXI flashes away this time. Now the 1-for-1. A little over eager for Sheo.
Isn't. See if the second flag drag can come up. Nope. Not just about. And mid 2v2. Spicy, and it's gone fairly even. And with a player like Baca in the mid lane, you look at this and you say, you know, this guy is someone who is so important to watch. He's been a player which, of course, came in to replace Deo, and before that was Febiven on this Fnatic ERL roster, Fnatic rising into FnaticTQ. So, and Baca has been such a player to watch, and giving him any sort of gold early in the game, something which you need to be very aware of.
Indeed. Of course, Xico, very happy to pick up that first blood on Viktor. Viktor likes kill assists early. Remember his passive. You get those hex tech upgrades a little earlier
100
on.
stacks to get your upgrades. See if we can get a stack on this Gangplank on top side, though.
The damage there. That's a lot of trading back at Oscarinin. Yes, you've got oranges, but a sky splitter and a final shot from the shotgun meets his fate there.
And Sheo's early games today have actually been very, very good. We saw the Poppy earlier against Bifrost. Now, of course, that one didn't end up in a win, but honestly, that early game almost counted the win for itself from how badly Sheo put his opposing number into the dirt, and now MAXI not actually able to impact these
no flash on the Graves, but of course he's still get away from that.
So, kind of go back to the point on the junglers, you know what I mean? MAXI did get some early look-ins on mid, but hasn't got as much value as he would have liked. This Volibear, as we've seen in the games it has gotten through today, has been so impactful.
Volibear, increasingly high priority, particularly since Xin Zhao's gone down the table a little bit. It used to be Xin Zhao all the time if you want to be early aggression on the jungle. Volibear has taken that over, and honestly, it kind of feels like Volibear doesn't fall off quite as hard as he once did when he first turned into the jungle with the rework. I feel like you've always got the ability to just flash in and get stuns, which is so big with the way the champions are.
You're reliable. Now, there are some champions which make you very much fall off, like Trundle. If you play into a good enough Trundle comp, he ults you and you don't have a fun time, but it's not the case in this game. And I think the way I had it described to me the best is it's something like Volibear is great into Xin Zhao because Xin Zhao doesn't really get to stop a lot of what Volibear does, and this is the same with most meta junglers, right? Xin Zhao is just a good analog for what do junglers do at the moment. And Volibear stops you from doing a lot of what you want to do because he's so reliable, and you can't really stop Volibear from still jumping onto the targets he wants to right now. So he's always going to get some value, and he gets that very early into the game. We see what happens when he comes into 2v2s, 3v2s. He hits level 3, and he is such a champion to avoid on the map. He's so powerful to play around him. BDSA using that threat, that kind of saying the quiet bit out loud and saying, "Hi, I'm very strong. Come fight me." And look what they're doing. Doing it top lane.
Oh, remember the first game of the day. Oscarinin was put into the dirt so many times. They'll do it for a second time this game.
Okay.
Easy as you like. And the bot side, though, Crownshot and Erdote being forced away from the tower, but do stay alive. Flash and heal was blocked by
They're losing a huge wave, which is one thing. But again, BDS Academy, they're sat here and they're saying the quiet bit out loud a little bit louder. Come fight me, I'm Volibear. See what we can do. And Sheo has got so much value.
They're still going to keep looking for this. A flash forwards does not quite land up for the flash afterwards. Solar Flare is stolen though, and that leaves Erdote out, not quite to dry. He stays alive, but that's some big sun cream values required. That sun protection value high enough to keep him alive. And just about though, as the turnaround though, gonna come through is Sheo decides to get to that.
At that point, you're just looking for poke. But what you have done is denied Crownshot an awful lot. Because, you know, again, this Misfortune is happy to be somewhat economical, but not to the point where you can't hold your lane, where you have your kind of a liability when you're stood under your turrets. And Crownshot's gonna have, has managed to stay within a decent amount of CS. That's fine. It's not led to too much right now, but with those plates going over to Bean, item advantage will be there just for the short term, and let's see if FnaticTQ can leverage that where they can.
They will, of course, there's still a big wave for Bean to pick up in the bot side, so I'll be interested to see where the CS discrepancy stacks up in, say, about 20 seconds or so. But as it stands, BDSA with the early game lead, they've put the priority wars as top side, they've got the Graves ahead, they've got this Volibear very much online with 100% kill participation. Xico's got first blood. It really is just Crownshot, perhaps against normal runs of play for BDSA, who's kind of been the person who's had to play weak side and has this far it's not fallen.
So, kind of zooming it out a little bit, BDSA fairly happy with how things are going right now. Kill and assist onto the Viktor. You talked about how important they are, and again, just making sure that things are not, again, going to be even going to the 5v5s the later things go. If Gangplank is a factor, if all of these members of FnaticTQ are on kind of like an even keel, Misfortune can struggle to impact these fights. Same with the Viktor, they can get shut down fairly easily, but BDS, with their early game so far, with how things are going. With the Herald and proc kit, that would allow them to accelerate a little further ahead of the game too. I think it's an important moment, see where they can get that gold into it, because normally it's a trade of plates across the map. It looks like FnaticTQ have managed to push in bot lane, but it's not really across maps. This is going to be a purely net positive Herald in a fairly mediocre scenario where you put it down.
I completely agree. Of course, you did see MAXI and Oscarinin just looking into the pit, see whether there was any room for a contest, but I think wisely they back away. Graves and Volibear this early on in the game when you're a little bit behind, probably not the easiest fight there in a 2v2.
And when you hit level 6, okay, chain line.
Looks like they've gone Ducks, but there's only a chunk, nothing more to be written home about. But the gravity field is now down, so there's a world where
that's the thing.
Cooldowns come back.
That's the thing. Gravity field is a long cooldown. It only comes up about once every 1.5 waves or so. It's a fairly long cooldown, especially at first rank. You don't put any extra points into beyond that. But teleports can go back towards the flank and Agresivoo. We've seen that. I think what that shows again is like we're starting to slow things down at this point. Really waiting and seeing where that Herald is. Shows on bot side. Again, the hammer blow is drawing back, but it's fairly lazily drawn back right now.
It is. FnaticTQ will use this opportunity and the bot lane pressure to do what that leads to, namely secure early stage dragon. First one of the game for them. So much more to write home about. After the early explosiveness around mid lane, it's really just BDSA with that early Herald, which I'm sure they'll be using to get some plays elsewhere, and about 1,000 gold lead, at least for now.
And so they're both solo laners to BDS Academy. Very happy to reset the teleports, come back into lane, and keep the map solid for them. Really is just Sheo waiting to see if they can do anything across this map. Because normally you'd say, okay, can Leona do anything? But getting the preferential bot lane resets can be fairly difficult when you push under tower like this. Erdote has found, nevertheless, a window of time to come into mid lane and help Viktor stay a little bit more safe. Always a chance of Viktor is pushed up too far to get punished. It doesn't actually matter if you pushed up as Gangplank, though. Always get punished in this lane.
I've seen this one, but MAXI's around, so this would be a 2v2, because Sheo can turn off the top, but Rhuckz is here as well. The rest of BDSA, namely Xico and Erdote, are coming through the jungle, but the question is whether they get here in time. Rhuckz is going to turn up with the battle dance. Too much more. We're looking to see whether somebody...
Is going back mid. I think FnaticTQ, they're calling off the play and say, take that gold into pocket, and they are, again, just very happy with the pace of the game right now, I think. I think they've already gotten ahead of the curve to where they want. You've put Gangplank behind a little bit. You're taking a lot of plates. The only worry is the Xayah getting a little scary, but
Yeah.
you see that, I mean, see how powerful Agresivoo is currently, even with just components going up towards that Eclipse. Of course, it's no longer the whole Baca Graves, towards the lethality that we saw towards the start of the season before people realized that whole breaker was a really broken item. Even with that said, BDS, again, as we said, they kind of reached the point where they are ahead of the curve enough right now to be happy with the state of the game. They just want to not fall behind this point. No, not right now. Because if you start overforcing, there's a chance that your work becomes a little bit undone. And I think that we've seen that with a couple of their objective plays later into the game. Sometimes BDS can get a little bit hypey. Don't always consider the risks of what they've been doing, but even with that, you know, I actually a larger point to go on a little bit of story time, I suppose. Not even story time, but I mean, coming into this tournament, I was a little worried for the LFL, I have to say, because I saw a lot of their early games, and I said, it's not looking so great. Because some team like Karmine Core as well, they had some difficult early games. See if they can actually last out this early game here against FnaticTQ. They have the lead. Potential dive coming the other side. First big skirmish rocking up.
Sheo gonna find a lot of people. There's everyone else in turn. Xico stunned up. MAXI gets eviscerated though. Xico trying to get out. It's a stolen Chaos Storm, but a heal from Crownshot keeps him out of danger. Sheo is a very big bear, but now he needs to get out of danger. It'll just be a 1-kill advantage over the BDSA and no one else falls.
And again, come around to the second round robin. After the first round robin, again, I thought that maybe your BDS academies, your Vitality Bs, your Karmine Cores, maybe there was something in the early games which could be exploited. Second round robin's been better, managing to survive a lot more, getting good chunks out, and that kind of ult is never going to get a kill, but chunking down these carries, these bot laners rather, like the AD carry and the support, so they can't so readily look for engage. It's very important, and again, staving off dive attempts, which again, FnaticTQ have been quite brazen about. They've been quite bold in saying, we are going bot lane, they're going over the vision, they're very obviously pinning a target on this side of the map, and plays like that gives it a lot more ease of access for this academy to get into these winning scenarios. And going into a choke point like that looks great if it's just the Volibear, not against the Viktor. Viktor loves those situations, and even before they get to their first dive, I'm very happy with how that plays out.
Yeah, especially when Volibear can just like hold you in the Chaos Storm for longer. It turns out that's not a great time for anyone involved. Takes a lot of damage, falls down, and that's more assist going over. Sheo continuing to be really apparent in this game. He is 100% kill participation again. Reminder, I believe this is the guy's first EU Masters. Never been to that kind of level of play quite yet. As top side, we're getting another dive, and Sheo involved again. This jungler with the tower tries to play for Graves' fatal weakness, namely that his bullets can get blocked, but they still get the kill, and they don't quite get the turret, but it's going to be pretty damn close. Bot side, though, they're able to play. Crownshot, and Xico locked in the Cataclysm. And they will fall a double to Baca. FnaticTQ's ace in the hole.
And though we were praising BDS Academy's ability to take some of these trades where they can kind of chunk out HP bars, so FnaticTQ couldn't look for the dives. Doesn't last forever. Doesn't last all the way through it, and they lose two, and they're going to lose themselves in turret. However, all that said and done, that's only one half of the map. Turns out there's two halves of them. The top side is going very, very well for Agresivoo, and considering his game on the cannon against Bifrost was not really what the team needed. This is a much better look in from this very tenured player. Looking to, again, force a tiebreaker to get into those playoffs, get to a point where they can muscle their way through into the final 8.
So we'll look at this replay again, and you see MAXI's around, and BDSA think, well, you're overdoing it again, aren't you? We can make this one work, but the flash away from the Solar Flare, Gravity down, and suddenly Baca and Rhuckz are here.
And someone like the Sylas very have to mop up fights like this when it is more skirmish heavy. Sylas tends to really reign supreme with the early teleport changes. Things went away from them a little bit. Still has a dragon contest. MAXI looking for steal. Barrage.
Still going to be the dragon secured. Sheo ults away from the grand entrance, and Sheo decides he doesn't want to be around when Rakan's there. Quite rude, really.
Nope, doesn't want any of that smoke. And going to be on a man rift. Dragons traded in the early game, and the gold lead is actually fairly even. It's spiky. It's changed across bits of the map, but FnaticTQ are not falling out of the running just yet, although with that all said and done, some work yet to be done for the Gangplank to really start hitting hard and particularly survive this side lane. Graves is a very big point of power, and it's going to be very hard to shut down Agresivoo now from the side of FnaticTQ.
I'm glad you called it out, because actually that bot side play pulled back a lot. The gold lead that BDSA have been steadily accruing, and a lot of it went into none other than Baca, this guy who's been actually really good for FnaticTQ. Like, his play has been phenomenal. His LeBlanc, nasty stuff.
Yeah, and you look at what he did in the first round robin, and he was such a force to be contended with. So that was the second Herald. Doesn't have the teleport. This would be very opportunistic
love the
looking.
goals.
They're peeking around the corner. I think they're gonna do the typical
Cannon barrage out there.
sit and peek in. Xayah with uneven numbers. 4v5.
Exactly that. And here comes Baca now. It's going to be a little too late. There goes the Herald, and they don't really get a lot for their time, all things
Yeah,
said.
this
And
is-
aside from mid lane shove, in fairness, they are going to prevent an easy rotation
Gotta
to
say,
it.
so this is kind of like half of the traditional watch an objective go down and just kind of sit there and clap. You are the audience in that one. You are the canned laughter. And what this does do though is it allows FnaticTQ to sit in the right part of the map to stop BDS Academy from going mid lane and saving that turret. Losing the mid lane out of turret is actually a big factor. So as well, although there was no real hope of taking that Herald, holding BDS Academy to retreat through not great angles for them to get towards mid ends up getting them an advantage.
It does indeed. And Agresivoo did teleport towards that bot lane tier 2 to collect the wave afterwards as well. So just a heads up that is down. Well, Oscarinin won't overshove this top lane. Actually, he does. Cancel out that ultimate. It's like, the moment I caught it, I was like, wait, I could do this. Because remember, there's no real teleports to respond. You can do this one pretty easily, especially now BDSA are all bot side.
Well, they had the Herald push, so it's going to be an uneven trade in terms of turret HP. That was a very low HP top turret. Still going to be even in terms of the objectives, unless they find a way to push in towards the bot inner turret. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that through Cannon Barrage and through Xayah's wave clear, but still going to sit around for just a moment. No, they're calling it off. They're recalling.
Okay.
I think they understand that we can't really defend top lane. Let's get the most we can on the bot side. And then we're actually now at a point with FnaticTQ have themselves a gold lead. And a lot of that gold recently has started to go into the Gangplank. Gangplank's now taken that local tower gold, has taken a lot of waves on top side, but it's still in the individual lane matchup of Gangplank into the Graves. A little bit difficult because you're against it. You're an entire item down. It's not great to face against, but actually on that note, if you look about this, it's like, oh, but isn't that a problem? Isn't your side lane going to be an issue? First matchup of FnaticTQ versus Bifrost, they were in a very similar conundrum. If you watch back in that game, it was Nas seriously pushing out, I believe it was an Ornn. It was a tank of some kind, and they were sat there looking, okay, look, this is really not good. But what they managed to do was just deny the lane allocation from Bifrost at that point. And if in this game they can do the same and deny BDS Academy the lane allocation of, oh, that's a strong Graves. How about we just don't play around it and give them max value? I think FnaticTQ are in a much better spot. So watch out for that. See what happens, whether Gangplank is in a free lane or has to kind of bite down on the bad scenario of the Graves.
The only playmaker for BDSA is kind of dwindled off here a bit as well. Sheo, yes, 100% kill participation, but nothing really has happened in their favor since that top lane shove. And credit to Oscarinin as well, matching the Herald shove just by being there in the top side by himself. Like the Herald really doesn't get.
I am the Herald.
I am the Herald. Doesn't get quite a lot done. This is going to be a big damaging Gangplank. So it's Essence Reaver. It'll be a Lord Doms afterwards as well. This is a Gangplank that hits 2 items, 3 items, and will just pop someone.
And they can go towards the Vintage third, lots of crit barrels. And if you're going forward as Leona or the Volibear, 1 barrel could effectively seal your fate. If it ends up being a crit, you aren't a frontline after that point. You're about a third of a frontline. And Rhuckz is looking to take up some frontline duties himself.
Xico and Crownshot get corralled, and Xico falls.
Well, one of them passes the reaction check. Crownshot flashes out of that combo. Xico sadly can't said the same of them. 30 seconds before the dragon, there is a teleport, so Viktor will still be impacting that play. The FnaticTQ get to hold courts in the bottom side of the river, take vision, take territory, get themselves set up. And remember what we were saying all the way through this game. Look about those even 5v5s. What happens when you've got a cannon barrage on one side and none on the other? Definitely favors FnaticTQ, at least in my eyes. You're gonna have to outplay this BDS Academy. You don't have the position you want.
You do at least keep the flash on Viktor, and they'll have the Chaos Storm, they'll have the bullet time. They can definitely get a hell of a lot of burst across, and if they can get it onto the key members, they can make it stick. Looks like they don't feel confident to come in here, and FnaticTQ are going to start up this dragon with complete lack of vision from BDSA right now. They're just going to have to give it up.
Again, that pick wasn't really for purpose of straight up winning a fight. It was very well timed though. It allowed FnaticTQ to go towards that bot side river, seal out that objective, get themselves some more attack stats from that man dragon, get themselves closer towards stacking them towards an eventual soul if they were to continue on that trajectory. But BDS Academy, we saw this a little bit in their games earlier today. They were looking around neutral objectives, ahead in the game in the previous one versus Bifrost, of course, but then actually a pick or two, going around the rotation, not really saving their carries well enough or holding them in a safe zone, get picked off and allow the enemy team some advantage maybe they couldn't do. And You don't want to be doing that too many times in this game. I've already said that they kind of want to be ahead just due to these compositions. If you're even, it feels like FnaticTQ are still playing around a range advantage, but they have more damaging backline access due to the nature of the carries they've got on the field.
This point as well, first item's beginning to get completed. Second, actually, for Oscarinin as well, who's just got that Lord Dom's complete as well. That Gangplank after a rough early start of the game is very happily online. Bean as well, Muramana transformation. Second item just in from Baca as well as he backs, and that is a big difference. Mega still no transformation for Crownshot, for example. Yes, you got the Gangplank Chainsword for Grace. That's not the most damage in the second item ever.
No, but it does give a decent amount of ability to deal with someone like Sylas. Sylas comes into your side lane, and you think, okay, well, you're trying to avoid the Gangplank. Well, rather, you're trying to avoid the Gangplank being in this lane matchup. Send Sylas up here. Healing reduction makes things kind of awkward, too. Now, BDSA actually did a decent job poking out Bean with the Xico's lasers. Again, we talked about how important it was for the mid lane outer turret to go down earlier in the game after the Herald. FnaticTQ took that down as kind of recompense for that Herald. BDSA not able to return the favor yet. This gives, again, extra ability for, as you can see on the screen, vision to go over the side of Team Kesso. Again, another big factor in how these games play out. When you're playing similar compositions, it's those kind of things really deciding the game. And ooh, back interrupted. Actually, that could potentially be a little bit more Bean. Doesn't go super hard on that one. Would have been a little bold, I have to admit. While it is just FnaticTQ taking this opportunity to roam as 3, look to get vision control here. Sheo comes over the wall, and they don't look like they want to give up this control completely quietly. 4, make that 5 members strong here. That's what's happened with these corridors.
Bean's in such a difficult position. Cleanse and the ultimate. Now getting massive feather ball. Oh my days. Bean just beans them all. They're baked. And they are down for the count. 3 dead. It's Agresivoo and Crownshot left alive. He'll get absconded and abducted and put in the dirt as well. 2 for Bean, 2 for Baca, and that was gorgeous.
And you could see it. You could see it happen. You could just draw a box on the screen and say, stay out of this area, BDS Academy. They think they find the angle, but it's into Xayah. Your misfortune is long range, is a teamfight AD carry, but you don't have that same level of self-peel. The Xayah is so powerful in those situations. BDS Academy funnel into the choke, into the cannon barrage, and they get absolutely fried.
We all know the meme format at this point. Load them up, stick them on Twitter. They just got beamed.
And now Agresivoo at least able to take that mid lane out of turret again. That's something. It helps, but now sat against that Baron buff on the other side. You're not really going to be able to see that other side of the river too often until that one wears off. And FnaticTQ, so again, win here would see them through as second place into the quarterfinals from their group. And again, you just see this, and you see that BDS Academy are trying to find this pick, but you just can't go into the feathers. You know that there's going to be a grouped unit there, and this is absolute gold dust for Xayah players. Xayah loves these situations, and the stolen Volibear roll, even Baca gets to go right into the flame. I mean, Gangplank doesn't even need to be there. That's the power of that ultimate. BS really not in the intended position their composition wants to be in.
No, and you know, credit to Rhuckz as well for giving the time when Bean came down from the air, come straight in with the grand entrance and the quickness to get even more time for the feathers to get drawn back. And now with the Baron, now up a healthy amount of gold and more, I'm sure, to come with this Baron shot. BDSA in a dire position.
So they're in dire position. However, it's not like it's completely out of the window just yet. You still have your long-range backline carries. If FnaticTQ flub and engage, go a little too far, engage into your front line, and they allow these carries to get good ultimates off, things can always go poorly on that point. It's not like it's just FnaticTQ that can peel back and do absurd amounts of damage, but FnaticTQ, they have the Baron buff right now. There's no, there's really...
Unfortunate.
It's a bit of a...
All right, they're starting to stay.
But again, this is the thing. FnaticTQ, they're actually not feeling forced to engage. They're happy to sit with the Baron buff. They're happy to sit with their range and just sit here and go, okay, right, you have to come into us. We saw how that went last time. We're not going to give you the option to do the same to us.
Down to maybe 5% HP, 2%. Feels like this mid lane tier 2. Another wave comes taxiing in, escorted by 3 members of FnaticTQ, and we'll secure that one. Gold goes into Oscarinin's court, and then bot lane, Baca gets this one as well, and now every single outer turret is down. Mounted soul points on the field as well as Baca misses the Everfrost, and actually now might get turned around on, but here comes the quickness. Rhuckz knocked up and taken very damn low. Does get out alive though. The cannon barrage gets a stopwatch out. That's a lot of damage back my days.
Gosh, it is. And with that said, that's now 5 members put down towards this bot lane. They have to go and reset. There's a teleport from Xico that's already been used, and Well, BDS Academy, they have themselves objective bounties. Probably not going to be getting anything close to it on this dragon. They've been forced back into their base, away from the dragon for that team Kesso. They get a lot of gold from the Baron. They get a dragon off of it too, and they just stop BDS Academy from leaving their base.
Feels like BDSA, after a strong early game, have been unable to find a proactive play that hasn't come at a mighty cost.
But, you know, listening into some of the interviews earlier in the day, which Jamada and Viper were having with, I'm trying to remember who it was from FnaticTQ that was on it. I just remember hearing from their perspective that one of the problems they've had with is it just feels like they're making uncharacteristic early game errors, right? I mean, okay, well, I'm hearing the thoughts of Rhuckz then was a lot of their thoughts on the situation of FnaticTQ not really hitting the stride that they would have liked to at this point was centered around that early game and uncharacteristic errors. And in this game, felt a little bit similar. Wasn't really firing on all cylinders. They survived. It wasn't disastrous. It wasn't disastrous, but it wasn't stellar.
It wasn't
in this game. It wasn't Bifrost.
I love that team for my days.
I love him from the bottom of my heart, but please, that heart is going to stop working at one of these days. But FnaticTQ, again, struggled in that early game, but particular credit to them for bailing out a bad lane situation for Oscarinin for not the first time in this tournament. No, Sheo's okay. He's a big old bat. To run back to base at this point. FnaticTQ continually taking control of this map. I mentioned a number of times this game about how vision is often the determining factor between two similar compositions. You've got these long-range AD carries with some backline access engages. Yeah, you know, it's close enough for argument's sake. And now, actually, what's interesting is Rhuckz was taking all of it, though. He's got 9 completion.
He's got 9 completion. Interesting to see. Keep your eyes on the inventory. When he's about to go back, yes, he does his redemption.
Yeah.
Very important. There you go. That is in. Big one. I mean, Oscarinin has the Infinity Edge now. That is a health. That is Inf-Edge online. That Gangplank will murder people. You've got a death character complete for Baca.
Sam, Infinity Edges are nice. It's the third item on a top laner. That's all well and good. How often do you see people actually giving gold to a support to finish their own item completions? That's the real special one.
That's competitive play where you can actually communicate.
Lovely. But you can see those item completions. I mean, they're just all ahead of their opposing numbers. The only person who's really on parity in terms of item completions is going to be that Graves for Agresivoo compared to Oscarinin, but they're cheaper items. The cheaper items than the crit build, they're very large amounts of stats coming out of this Gangplank now, and really cannot afford to ever take a barrel. You take a barrel, that is a minute or two. So the thing is that, like, if you get chunked out heavily enough one time, that is about 30 seconds to a minute of you not being on the map because you have to go back, play backwards, and FnaticTQ start to just starve you out even more and more. You eat one barrel, that should be lights out.
And even if you find a good moment to engage, it's so hard to kill B, at least in one engage. It's got Flash, Cleanse, Featherstorm, Stopwatch, and everyone else trying to bail him out at the same time. It needs to be a multi-step program, and like finding 2 clutch engages back to back in order to kill Beam, that's going to be a very tall order.
Completed step 1 a bit earlier in the game, and they managed to force out some of those defensive abilities. But again, you're right, it has to be multi-step, and those steps have been a little out of time, a little faltering in BDS Academy. Again, what a shock it would be for the LFL second seed to not make it out of groups. It's looking like they are so far on the back foot that it seems like an eventual likelihood. LPP, of course, haven't got any of their teams before FnaticTQ are out of groups. Heck, Baca, they fell to Bifrost, who were first in the group from the play-ins, and maybe looking back at that situation now, you look back and you see, look at things in a different light. But LVP, they're looking for their final light and see if they can seal it off around Baron and force the LFL second seed out of the tournament.
Reminder, the last time BDSA were playing around the Baron, it got stolen away from them and allowed Bifrost and Edge back into the game. Maybe they can find their own turnaround here, but the Baron resets BDSA. Fnatic pull off, and remember, they've still got a Viktor, they've still got a Misfortune. Those are big ticket team fight ultimates. They get 3 items, and there is a world where they can turn things around.
What's happening here is that FnaticTQ are happy to at least bait the Baron because they are still forcing BDS Academy to walk over their vision, and that opens up options. Baca has a lot of gold right now. You have a Cannon Barrage, you have the ability to follow up a very large range, and while nothing comes from it from this attempt, FnaticTQ are very happy to just force BDS to play in the area that they want them to. There's a Mountain Soul coming up in 40 seconds. They're back to the Baron, and they're saying, look, you have to choose here. Yeah, this is the thing, right? FnaticTQ are very happy to go to the Baron because 1 Dragon for BDS Academy does not mean the same to the 2 for Kesso at this point.
Sheo's gonna be there, it's gone. Nice attempt there from the collateral damage, just not in time, and now FnaticTQ going to try and back out. Sheo maybe thinking about going over the wall, but it's a clean Baron. The vision control was too strong and the Baron taken too fast.
And with the empowered recalls, you have to imagine that FnaticTQ will be there to contest. Actually, they're going to the side lanes. BDS Academy looking to go towards the Dragon.
Oh,
and again, like, a single Dragon does not mean that much for BDS Academy. Actually, Sylas going to be backing off away from play, maybe looking to catch someone as they walk close towards the base. But
yeah, Oscarinin will take a fairly hefty chunk there. BDSA will secure that objective bounty and get out for now, but look at Baca. He is on a flanking angle here with Rhuckz around as well. Sheo not in the best location. If they find him in this bush, he's got to flash out, try and recall again.
I'm not sure if they saw it. We'll see if they saw the particles around it. There's a red missing ping. I think they found it, and Sheo...
He's looking for
he's fast. He might
have done it.
He might have done it. I think he's out off the play at this point, but actually in the top lane while this happened, it was just the inhibitor turret going down as Oscarinin went towards that objective. Had to be flashed away from the Chaos Storm. Notable that. So see Oscarinin trying to play around the side lanes a little more. Have that defensive ability to add to proceedings. FnaticTQ set up again.
Xico as well, very afraid of how far he was shoved up with that vision. Teleported back to base. I was afraid there was going to be some plays going towards us. That teleport is now down for Viktor, but does have at least got that third item now.
The thing is, one death, especially onto Misfortune or onto that Viktor, is probably game at this point. And again, that weight of that potential loss over these players' heads has got to be so heavy. So much tenure, so much tenure in these players from BDS Academy. So much expectations. 5 games versus LDLC in the finals, and that on that store.
There's the cannon barrage, stun onto Bean, but that will just be an ult for an ult trade. No wave here to work with right now. Minion wave in mid lane gets taken in as a big bullet time stolen from Baca. A hijacked one there, but still not quite time for this game to end. So these waves aren't quite synced.
Oh, yeah, a little bit hypey there. I was like, oh heck, Misfortune ult does scale off AP. This could be kind of dangerous, but of course no armor penetration from Baca's build. Still does a decent amount of damage, and third tier ultimate from Sylas, you're going to get the ability to hijack something sooner or later. But again, game's not over yet. But FnaticTQ very poised, very calm, not giving those openings for BDS Academy to exploit. They're not making rash decisions, and they're very just slowly crumbling through the pace of BDS Academy.
It is stifling here in this game. There are so few wards. There are 2 control wards in the river when they were taking the dragon. That's about it right now. There's the one final wall close to their base, which has been swept out. I don't know whether anybody will actually get over to take it out right now. And just so few ways to find a way into the back end of this. And no one who really wants to teleport anyway. Look on the other side. Oscarinin does go a little bit deep, though, and maybe this will be the moment. They've overstepped and he goes down.
Okay, so that's one, and that probably is going to be the end of the Baron push. It was coming to a close anyway, I suppose. But FnaticTQ, while they might not have been bold or brash or over-aggressive, it also means that they're not able to take huge amounts of the enemy base. That's actually going to be the Solar Flare looking to interrupt some backs, and it does interrupt Beans, but it doesn't catch anyone at the same time. Solar Flare down for the moment. But FnaticTQ now without that Baron, have to potentially wait for the next dragon. They're still in the lead, still very happy to play around that. There's a Prowler's Claw that's been built up on Oscarinin. That extra lethality and the ability to 1v1 is absolutely absurd. If you walk into a Viktor who's in a bush, that's instant one-shot on pretty much anyone now on the team of BDS Academy. It's huge amounts of stats through from that item.
I don't care whether you got his Zhonya's and enough armor at this point with the passive from that Power's Claw, as you said, to shred through it.
5 lethality per legendary item build up after it. This is very much similar to Ezreal. You build him up so late, you get a huge chunk of stats on that item completion for better legendary items with all that. So, Rhuckz found himself on the flank, not spotted just yet. Potentially catching Secret Agent. Okay, that is smooth. You know what? That was smooth. Rhuckz, Secret Agent for this time.
Run the mission impossible.
Well, I mean, he has his 007 tag. Very tight. Very fitting on the KDA, but minute and a half until that dragon spawns. To his mission, if you choose to accept it, is to find those big engages or those picks across those lanes, but you have to remember that diving in as the Rakan gets more deadly as the game goes on. You are not a tanky engager. Has a stopwatch, has redemption, has some extra utility to play around, but Rhuckz, well, he has such an important role to play in this team. He needs to be very careful about the way he does it.
Summoners are up pretty much across the board. Only Sheo down their flash, but now Baca going in. So much damage to Stormbreaker. There's not enough time. It's not like that turnaround. The bullet time is well timed. Gonna get some back, but still not enough. No one is dead despite the low health bars. And it will still be 2 dead for BDSA and FnaticTQ stay alive.
And there are teleports available. See if they can use that to either crush down the base or inhibs free or get towards the mountain soul. It's Pretty dangerous situation, a horrible situation for BDS Academy to be in. They're stuck between not just a rock and a hard place, but that rock is actually in the form of a mountain. It's a whole lot of rocks in a harder place. And FnaticTQ building up that momentum. It's so hard for them to walk into the enemy side of things, especially when your jungler's dead. All of your engaged threats are down. They have damage, but they have no way to set up for it. How are you going to deal with this dragon?
They're playing slow, they're playing steady. It's 35 minutes in. Crownshot just about avoids the attempted engage there, but Agresivoo in pretty deep. Gonna try and trade this up. I see Gana's got the Cataclysm. Not the Cataclysm, I apologize. The collateral damage and a quick draw. Cataclysm not up for MAXI. He just about gets alive.
Oscarinin just about filling the 3-barrel combo. Dragon's going down.
Soul secure for FnaticTQ. Now they've got that on top of it, and they are not. Outside of that, a slight overextension for Oscarinin. They've been playing this game as carefully and cleanly as they can since the mid-game hit.
No unnecessary risks. They found fights occasionally. They've not found the crushing ones. They found just enough to keep themselves in the lead. Baron now up with BDS. They still have a lifeline. They still have a way to force another game. Remember, if BDS Academy win, it goes to a tiebreaker.
Oh, yeah.
This is one game. It could be a second between the two. And what a series of events that would be. FnaticTQ would love to stamp out this brief spark here. Would love to seal their region's 1 seed into the quarterfinals and again force the LFL away.
We have already seen a team come back from Seoul and back from further down in gold today against BDSA. Can they do it in turn here against FnaticTQ? Agresivoo being a bit caught, but still pretty alive. At this point, the True Grit doing a lot of work to keep him alive, but now Sheo in a difficult position. Does have the ult, will get away, but that is now popped as well. Cannon Barrage does a lot of work. Oscarinin does have the barrel pop, is taken out. That was a clutch auto attack, but now the support is left out to dry. The bullet time does so much work, but the stopwatches and redemption by time. Xico falls as well, and FnaticTQ cannot be killed.
They can't. And BDS Academy are playing fairly well at peeling back, saving most of their carries, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough against the Mountain Soul and not enough against the damn Stacy's effects from the stopwatches, the Zonias, and you name it. It's another Baron. FnaticTQ an even more demanding lead at this point. They have themselves a Soul, and while there is an Elder counting down, it feels like it is inevitable. BDS Academy will have to pull off some true heroics. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen them today from one of our teams in this group, but for the second seed out of this group, it would mean so much.
Just don't have quite the damage. You thought at this point maybe they managed to disengage. Cannon Barrage comes down and the barrel misses, and I thought, okay, they can get out. But the follow on is so good.
Isn't one of the powers of Rakan is that even if you're not leading the charge as Rakan, you're kind of at the front anyway. You get to battle dance your way through, and the engage range is so absurd. And as you said, those Stacy's effects doing so much work against Crownshot's Misfortune. We said it was going to be a hard time for Misfortune to really get a lot of value because of the amount of backline access. Actually, the Stacy's have stopped so much ability to play even from that longer range as well. FnaticTQ doing very well to shut out this such a high name brand AD carry with so much prestige.
Indeed. Of course, still did about 2/3 of a lot of people's health bars there. Like, that was 4 people's health bars who went down by 2/3. They just couldn't quite finish the rest of us. You guys, the Chaos Storm stolen and vashes away. The bullet time this time again into Stacy's doesn't get that much done. Look at the back end as well. MAXI with a wave trying to get more in. Of course, he's going to try and get some more done. The redemption tops up people's HP. Inhibitor under siege in the mid lane, and FnaticTQ seemingly on the march to crushing even more of the space.
They do have the defense advantage, get to recall very quickly and get back into the fray. He needs to Chaos Storm, and again, you can see why those chunks mean so much. It tries to stop that siege. Is it enough though? Bean does have some degree of sustain, still has a flash, still has an ult.
That is Prowler's Claw and 4 items, as we said. Erdote taken down to 10% HP on the Leona. Stays alive. 3 waves are crashing. The top side about to fall. The mid lane being taken down by MAXI. And now it is the last gasp of BDSA. Do you have anything left in the tank? Or FnaticTQ come in and secure the second seed. It is now or never.
It's now or never, and I don't know whether it's going to be in this lifetime. I have to see it in the next tournament. Our second seed in so much dire danger.
They're trying so hard to stay alive. They're trying so hard to hold on. The barrel takes Sheo down to half HP, heading more like TNT than an explosive cask. doing their best to hold on, doing their best to stall, but it's 3 waves, it's Baron, and it is 40 minutes and a Mountain Soul. But Solar Flare goes wide after a solid abscond. Where is the Abduct to follow? Nothing.
Even Atlas would be jealous of what BDS are doing in this game. They're holding on to so much weight, but is it enough?
But their fingernails are slipping. A Nexus Tower falls. The other one falls as well. It's a Nexus alone. Still no one is dead. Everyone's alive. Oscarinin taken so low. Agresivoo staying alive. The bullet time is good, but Bean is better. Takes 2. Sheo gets 1, but it's already a 2 for 1. And all the while, the Nexus is left bare. Agresivoo trying their damnedest, but it's just not going to be enough. And FnaticTQ, the number 1 seed from the Superliga, do emerge in this group. BDSA are out.
And the LFL second seed, they leave us here. BDS Academy, they came in with fanfare. They came in with the support of their such passionate fans as all LFL teams have, but it's the LVP which comes up. They come up tops and they come up with such an important win. And LVP, they draw blood in this matchup between regions, which has been so LFL-sided this tournament.
They finally get out, and it's a breath of relief for the Superliga. This group of death claims another victim. It is in the FNTQ that become the survivors.
Yeah, and I do feel like the more we look back on this group through the first and the second round robins and seeing the level of play, while this group may have been, maybe not has had, it didn't have your LDLCs, didn't have your X7s, this has felt like the real group of real contention. It was so close. All of these games went down to the wire, and for the teams that go forward, they go out through a bloody battle.
They absolutely do, and we are joined by none other than the victorious mid laner, Baca. Welcome. A close fought group, but you do emerge as the second seed here. How are you feeling after that victory?
I'm feeling fucking good.
That's the way to say it. I love it. Obviously, this was a very difficult group, very tight for a long time. It comes down to the final match for you here. How are you feeling coming into the game? What were your expectations, like, with everything on the line?
Yeah, I mean, for me, these times are the best times because it's when you are against the wall and you can only see forward. So that was my mindset. I just wanted to win, and I just want to get out of this group because I think in the beginning we thought we would be able to, and I guess today was a bit of a weird day. So I'm just happy that we could step up and do this.
Well, let's touch on that then. Obviously, coming into the tournament, there were a lot of hopes on your team. Of course, FnaticTQ. So you guys went to the finals over in the NLC effectively last year with the Fnatic organization now moving over to the Super League. You had a historic regular season. You're coming up incredibly hot. And the group stage doesn't really go quite as planned. How is that being to deal with that kind of like the slight shock maybe of not performing up to the level you guys were hoping for or expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's a bit stressful in a way because we are expected to do way better than this, and in reality, we all know we are capable of way better than this. So it's a bit. I wouldn't say. How can I say it? It's like stressful, and it just feels a bit. We get a bit mad because like we were in our second game, we were 10k ahead. Yeah, frustrated, exactly. Like, we were 10k ahead and we just didn't win that game. And if we win that game, maybe everything changes, you know? And we get first in the group. So I think that's basically it. It's just a bit of frustration. But in the end, I think what matters is that we get out of the groups. Now we are second seed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to work on it and we're going to be better for the next games.
Looking forward then, now that you have secured that second spot, getting out of the groups here, what are your expectations for the rest of the tournament? Obviously, it's been a little bit of a... You're saying there was frustration with your performance, maybe some of those expectations, not quite what you were hoping for, but how deep do you think you can go? How easy is it going to be to work on those problems with that in mind?
I think it's going to be easy, honestly. I know this group. I know the potential we can achieve. Like, we just really need to believe in ourselves. If anything goes wrong, we just need to keep fighting. And I know we can get everything, honestly. I think we can get this tournament. That's our expectation.
Fantastic.
We need all.
Okay. Win it all. So good to hear from you. Congratulations again on the win. We'll see you in the quarterfinals. That doesn't mean we have to say goodbye to you for now.
Goodbye. Thank you.
And I'm going to assume many words of wisdoms were dispensed there. Again, I actually couldn't hear anything, so I'm very sorry for that. Would love to ask some questions. But again, Baca has been a player with so many expectations, on a team with so many expectations, and this will probably be a relief, I would imagine. That's probably one of the primary facts. But there's relief on one side. But I mean, the LFL, again, BDS Academy, this like juggernaut, dreadnought of the ERLs has lost a team. First LFL team down. And it's in groups. It's not against another LFL team.
We got, of course, to work over this game, though, and see exactly how it happened, though, because it was a cagey game in a lot of ways, but it was after a good early start from BDSA, a great recovery from FnaticTQ Line, and it kind of started somewhere around here, though. Of course, this was MAXI getting blown up.
And while, you know, Rhuckz is talking about the early game worries of their own team, FnaticTQ Line, I mean, we had a lot of worries about the LFL's early games. It was across all of their teams. BDS Academy did have some points where they were walking into some skirmishes just hoping that they would work out, but they had a decent early game. It really was the mid game where things really started to struggle. This was the fight where you thought, yeah, that's really not how you fight against FnaticTQ Line's comp. That's not the fight you want to take. They choose to take it. They get absolutely blasted. And while it was kind of falling away from them a little bit through a series of picks and the rest of it, FnaticTQ Line very handily handed them their defeat in that team fight that.
Do indeed. And again, you know, like, there was some moments here where it's like, okay, they're going to manage to disengage. Good news, but they just can't get far enough away. Oscarinin here can't quite get the barrels off, but just to follow up here, MAXI goes to the Cataclysm, and even a fantastic bullet time from the side of Crownshot just isn't enough at this point in the game.
I have to say, this has got to feel so satisfying on the other side too for fans of actually all the ERLs, and for us it was kind of like neutrals between these two regions, because, you know, particularly when you've seen the LVP struggle this whole tournament, actually, one seed going out in play-ins, another in groups, to finally have a team going forward in quarters, and not just that, going out into quarters after beating an LFL team as well, a team which has, you know, so often been the region to beat. Even though it's not the manner which they wanted to do it in, it's still got to taste sweet.
Yeah. Victory in the end is still victory, however hard fought.
Sometimes it's death as well.
And
victory.
Okay, fair enough.
And they did a fair amount of damage this game, of course. I mean, this was, as you said, a very, very close back and forth between these two teams. And it took FnaticTQ Line a while to find like the real ending fight, the killer blow, but they found it nonetheless, and they did it very, very assuredly.
You can see it there in the goal graph. It's a slow incline towards the 2K for BDSA, and then suddenly it stalls, and then it's a very hefty drop off towards FnaticTQ, who will now become the second seed out of this group. Let's have a quick look in at those standings as well to see where we are with the rest of it. That will still be Group A yet to come, of course, which will be tomorrow, but we can see now who else is going to be out. Carmine Core and X7 from Group B, Bifrost and FnaticTQ from Group C, and LDLC undefeated. The only team thus far still remaining aside from Vitality B, who could maybe match that record tomorrow, and Unicorns of Love, Sexy Edition, coming out.
That is setting up to be a absolute rocket fuel set of quarterfinals matchups. We could have region team kills between NLC, between LFL. We'll see what happens with the other regions too. See if Spandau can make that also similar between the Prime League teams. It would be great to see ourselves some more inter-region competition in those best of fives. And what a different game it will start to be. What a different tournament it will start to be once we start hitting those big series.
Absolutely. And let's look in at the schedule for tomorrow. That final moment before we know what our quarterfinals look-ins will be. Start off with a Go Rover Eintracht Spandau. Big one there for both those teams. Then it'll continue on from there. Any other matches you've really got your eyes on?
Well, I think that I'm looking at Game 3, Vitality B versus Eintracht Spandau. I mean, Vitality B, obviously 3-0 out of their first round robin. Again, the thing is, first round robin only means so much. As long as you continue on that form, we've seen a lot of changes between first and second round robin. It's not easy to predict this group. Go Rogue are actually playing with another substitute now as well. They've made some changes. Maybe that's been enough to give them an extra push to find themselves form and get out of this group, and what a result that would be for this team, which has struggled so much in the tournament so far.
Hey, Zvezda, that is a veteran roster coming in from the EBL. Could do a lot of work there. They could play spoiler. They could even still get out of the group, so you can't fight them off. Hell, you can fight off none of the teams at this tournament right now.
You know, I mean, it does mean I love myself underdog stories. I love myself the stories of kind of like teams which have lower expectations, punching up and saying, hey, we're still here at this tournament. We can punch up on this. And we do spend a lot of time talking about the accredited ERLs, the big regions. Of course, this group today had a lot of them involved, but seeing Red Star move forward would be such a story in its own right. Although there's a lot of good teams to go through to do that. It's going to be a hard mountain to climb, as it always tends to be with this tournament.
Indeed it is. But we have got 6 of our 8 quarterfinalists locked in. 2 more to be locked in tomorrow. But that will have to wait until then, I'm afraid. So from myself, from Nymera, from the whole Amazon EU Masters production crew, we will bid you good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are around the globe. And we will see you back here tomorrow for those finals deciding games and groups. See you then.